A researcher in Kyoto points at a container. Remy looks at her, looks at the container, runs to it. There's food inside. She does it again. Different container. Remy runs. No food. Third time. She points at a container with food. She knows. Remy knows. She knows. Remy doesn't move. Just looks at her. 34 dogs went through that experiment. Not most of them. Every single one made the same choice. We're coming back to that. But first, I need to show you what was actually happening inside Remy's head, because it's not one thing. It's several things firing at once. So fast, it looks like instinct. And it's honestly more impressive than instinct. You felt this. Someone comes to your house, normal enough person, nice enough voice, and your dog does that thing, not barking, not aggressive, just hangs back, watches, sits a little closer to you than usual. Something in you goes, yeah, I see it too. By the end of this, you'll know exactly what your dog was running when they did that, and it's going to change the way you watch them meet someone new. Picture this. Someone comes to your door. You've never met them. Your dog Remy has never met them. In the time it takes you to say hello and open the door wider, Remy has already made a decision. Not a guess. A decision built from information you literally cannot perceive. Here's what was actually happening. The first thing Remy is reading is the person's body, not their face, their whole body. The way weight shifts when they walk in, whether their hands are tense or loose, whether their movement toward Remy is direct or curved. Dogs are extraordinarily sensitive to motion patterns. A person who moves with tension registers differently than someone who's relaxed. Remy clocked that before the person made eye contact with you. At the same time, Remy's nose is pulling chemical information you can't even perceive. The changes in human body chemistry that come with nervousness, aggression, or fear produce volatile organic compounds. Remy detects them in real time. Remy isn't diagnosing your guest's personality. Remy is reading the chemical weather of their body. And then there's the layer most people miss entirely. Remy is watching how that person interacts with you. The tone, the body language between the two of you, whether you tense up, whether you relax. Remy has been studying your patterns for years. A disruption in those patterns is information. None of these channels alone is enough to spot a bad person. But running together body language, scent, and social observation, all in the first few seconds they create something that looks from the outside like Remy just knows. Remy doesn't just know. Remy is working. Back to Kyoto. In 2015, a researcher named Akiko Takaoka wanted to test something specific. Do dogs automatically follow human pointing gestures? Or do they actually evaluate the person doing the pointing? A dog in a room with two containers. A researcher points at one. Food inside. Defensit. Trust established. Next round. Same researcher. Different container. Doronzo. Empty. The researcher has now lied in the only language the dog understands. Chester. Round 3. Researcher points at a container that does have food. The dog looks at the researcher, looks at the container, and stays put. Not because they've lost interest in food, not because they're confused, because they've decided this particular human is not reliable. One trial, one broken promise. That's all it took. Here's the part that elevates this from interesting to kind of stunning. Takaoka swapped in a new person for round 3. Same setup. New human doing the pointing passive. The dogs followed immediately. They hadn't lost faith in pointing. They hadn't become generally suspicious. They had filed a complaint about one specific individual and moved on. Takaoka said she was surprised how quickly the dogs her word devalued the reliability of a human. I love that phrasing. Devalued the reliability. Like your dog is running a credit score on everyone they meet, which honestly, they kind of are. That last study was about how dogs evaluate strangers. This one is about what happens when someone wrongs you. Same year. Different lab. Hitomi Chijiwa and her team at Kyoto set up a scenario where a dog watched their owner try to open a container and ask a nearby stranger for help. In one version, the stranger helped. In another, the stranger deliberately turned away. Refused. A third person just sat there. Neutral. After the interaction, both the actor and the neutral person offered the dog a treat. Same treat. Same time. Nobody looked at the dog. When the stranger had helped, the dogs took treats. From both, no preference. Everyone's fine. When the stranger had refused to help their owner, the dogs would not take food from that person. They walked past the offered treat, past food, and went to the neutral stranger instead. I need you to understand what that means. Remy turned down a free treat from someone who had been unkind, not to Remy, to you. In a situation with no direct benefit to Remy, nobody fought over Remy's food. Nobody touched Remy. Remy was just watching. And Remy made a choice. The researchers called this third-party affective evaluation. It had never been documented in a non-primate species before. And here's the kicker. The dogs didn't reward helpfulness. They punished unhelpfulness. The helpful stranger got no bonus. The unhelpful one got shunned. Researchers called this a negativity bias. Dogs weight bad behavior more heavily than good behavior, which makes perfect evolutionary sense. Knowing who to avoid keeps you alive. Knowing who to thank is a luxury. Your dog doesn't care who's generous, but they are keeping a very specific list of who refused to help you. And they don't forget. One more. And this is the one that stopped me. A team at the University of Vienna asked something that sounds almost absurd. Can dogs tell the difference between a person who's wrong and a person who's lying? 200 dogs. A person hides a treat in one of two buckets. A second person moves it to the other bucket. In one condition, the first person watches the switch. They know the treat has moved. In the other, they leave the room. They genuinely don't know. Then the first person comes back and points to the original bucket, the empty one. From the dog's perspective, the instruction is identical both times. Someone is pointing at the wrong bucket. When the person had been in the room and seen the switch pointing wrong on purpose, dogs were significantly more likely to ignore them. They went to the correct bucket on their own. When the person had genuinely missed the switch, the dogs followed their pointing more often. They gave the benefit of the doubt to the person who didn't know better. The implication: dogs aren't just tracking behavior. They may be tracking intent. Not this person pointed wrong, but this person pointed wrong and they knew it. The researchers found breed mattered. Retrievers. Border collies. Breeds selected for cooperative work with humans, better at detecting the deception. Terriers bred for independent work. Chasing things down holes. Making their own decisions were the only breed group that followed the liar more often, which honestly made me laugh. If your terrier trusts everyone, that's not gullibility. That's centuries of breeding saying, I'll check it out myself. Thanks. Not missing the signal? Just not wired to care about social hierarchy the same way a retriever is. They're going to investigate the bucket personally. Ask questions never. I promised I'd be honest with you. So here's where I keep that promise. In 2025, a researcher named Hyo-rin Mini, working at Kyoto University, published a study that should have confirmed everything I just told you. 40 pet dogs watched humans act either generous or selfish with food toward another dog. Then the dogs got to choose who to approach. The result? Nothing. No preference. Not for the generous person. Not against the selfish one. She was surprised. She said reputation formation in dogs may be more complex than previously thought, and that methodological challenges might explain the result, but she was careful not to dismiss it. So, what do we do with that? The studies that show dogs evaluating humans tend to involve scenarios where something is at stake, for their relationship with their owner. The Chijiwa study worked because someone wronged their person. The Takaoka study worked because someone lied to the dog directly. When the scenario is more abstract, watching a stranger be selfish with someone else's dog, someone the test dog doesn't know or care about the signal might not be strong enough to trigger the evaluation. Your dog probably isn't running background checks on strangers at the park, but in your home, with your people. And when the social dynamics actually matter to them, the science on that is not ambiguous. Some of you are thinking my dog loves everyone, has never met a person they didn't immediately try to climb. Does that mean my dog can't do this? No, it doesn't. The dogs in these studies didn't start from suspicion. Most dogs start from trust. That's the baseline. It took a specific, observable violation to trigger the evaluation. Your dog being friendly isn't a failure to detect bad people. It means nobody has given them a reason to flag yet. That probably says more about the people in your life than it does about your dog. But if your dog is the dog who loves the delivery guy, loves the neighbor, loves the vet, and then one day quietly refuses to go near someone, pay attention. That's not random. That's a dog who has been trusting everyone until right now. And something just changed. Back to that lab in Kyoto. A researcher points at a container. Remy looks at her, looks at the container, and stays exactly where she is. When I first read about that experiment, I thought it was a study about lying, about whether dogs can spot a liar. It is, technically, but here's what I think it actually shows. Remy isn't staying still because she's suspicious. She's staying still because she remembers the last time she trusted this person and what happened. She took that experience, a single experience, and used it to make a decision about the future. Your dog is doing this all the time. Not psychically, not magically, through a system refined over 10,000 years of living beside people who sometimes lie, sometimes help, sometimes turn away. Your dog learned a long time ago that humans are complicated, and instead of giving up on us, they built the machinery to sort through that complexity. Every day your dog meets someone new. They're running this entire system, not because they're suspicious, because they're paying attention. For you, think about that. The next time your dog hangs back from someone and you can't explain why, they might be ahead of you. If you have a story about the time your dog didn't trust someone and turned out to be right, drop it in the comments. I read all of them. And if this changed the way you see your dog, share it with one person who needs to hear it. See you next time.